My name is Aurora Coleman. I am 24 years old and I live in the United States. The fork was halfway to my mouth when my grandfather stopped eating. He set his knife down. The sound clicked against the china plate, loud in the silent dining room. He looked at me over his reading glasses. Aurora, he asked calmly, did you get the email about your trust fund? I froze. My hands started shaking. I looked at my mother sitting across the table. She was staring hard at her mashed potatoes, refusing to meet my eyes. What trust fund? I whispered. We don't have any money, Grandpa. Grandpa didn't say a word to me. He just looked at my mother. Then he slid his open laptop across the heavy wooden table. I looked at the screen. I saw my name in bold letters. I saw 10 years of bank statements. I saw millions of dollars deposited. And then I saw the withdrawals. The balance was almost zero. I scrolled down to the contact information. The email address linked to the account wasn't mine. It was hers, my mother's. She had raised me to believe we were poor. She made me work for every dollar while she bought new dresses. But it was all a lie. She wasn't protecting me. She was robbing me. I looked up at her. She was sweating. Her hands were gripping the tablecloth. That is when I realized this wasn't just a family dinner. It was a trap, and she had just walked right into it. But before I tell you how everything flipped like and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Aurora Coleman. I am 24 years old. To understand why that dinner was so shocking, you have to understand how I grew up. You have to understand the lies. For as long as I can remember, my mother told me we were poor. She didn't just say it once or twice. It was the background noise of my entire life. It was the reason for everything. We can't afford that, Aurora. Do you think money grows on trees? Be grateful you have a roof over your head. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my mother. I thought she was doing her best. I thought she was struggling to keep us afloat. I remember being 7 years old. It was winter. My coat was too small. The sleeves stopped above my wrists and the zipper was broken. I had to use a safety pin to keep it closed. The wind cut right through the gaps. I asked her if I could get a new coat. A cheap one, just something that fit. She looked at me with tired, sad eyes. She sighed, a long, heavy sound that made me feel guilty for even asking. Aurora, she said, her voice tight. I am scraping pennies together just to buy groceries. Do you want to eat this week or do you want a coat? I felt terrible. I told her I wanted to eat. I wore that broken coat for 2 more winters. I learned to tuck my hands into my armpits to keep them warm. I learned not to ask for things. But looking back now, I see the cracks in the story. I see the things a 7-year-old misses. While I was shivering in that coat, my mother was always warm. She had a beautiful wool coat. It was long and beige with big buttons. She wore leather gloves. She smelled like expensive perfume. When I asked her about her nice things, she had an answer ready. I have to look professional for work, Aurora. If I don't look good, I don't get clients. If I don't get clients, we don't eat. It's an investment. It made sense to me then. I thought she was sacrificing for us. I thought she was brave. But the investments never stopped. By the time I was 14, the difference between our lives was impossible to ignore. I started working. I got a job at a local diner washing dishes. It was hard work. My hands were always red and chapped from the hot water and the soap. I came home smelling like old grease. I made minimum wage. I brought every check home and put it on the kitchen counter. Here, Mom, I would say, for the bills. She would take the money. She wouldn't say thank you. She would just nod and put it in her purse. Good girl, she'd say. Every little bit helps. God knows we need it. But the next day, she would come home with shopping bags. Not groceries, department store bags. One afternoon, I came home early from school. I walked into the kitchen and saw a box on the table. It was a pair of boots, beautiful, tall leather boots. The price tag was still on the bottom, $300. I stared at the price. That was 2 weeks of my pay at the diner. My mother walked in. She saw me looking at the boots. She didn't look ashamed. She didn't try to hide them. Mom, I said, those cost $300. I thought we couldn't pay the electric bill. She snatched the boots off the table. Her face went cold. I needed new shoes for a meeting, she snapped. And don't you dare question how I spend money. I am the adult here. I am the one keeping this family alive. You have no idea how hard it is. But Mom, I said, my voice shaking. I'm wearing sneakers with holes in the soles. It rains and my socks get wet. She laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a sharp, cruel sound. Life isn't fair, Aurora, she said. Deal with it. Stop looking for handouts and work harder if you want nice things. That was her favorite phrase. Life isn't fair. She used it like a weapon. When I wanted to go on the school trip, life isn't fair. When I needed braces for my crooked teeth, life isn't fair. When I wanted to go to a college that wasn't the local community college, life isn't fair. She told me my grandfather, her father, was the same way. She told me he was a cold, hard man who didn't care about us. He has millions, she told me, but he won't give us a dime. He thinks we should suffer. He hates us, Aurora. He hates me and he hates you. So I stayed away from him. When we visited him for holidays, I was quiet. I was scared of him. I thought he looked down on me because of my cheap clothes. I thought he was judging me. My mother made sure of that. She was the gatekeeper. Every phone call went through her. Every letter went to her. She built a wall between me and the rest of the world. Inside that wall, we were poor, struggling victims. Inside that wall, she was the hero trying to save us, and I was the burden. I spent my teenage years feeling heavy. I felt like I owed her everything. I felt guilty for existing. I worked double shifts. I ate ramen noodles while she ordered sushi. I wore thrift store clothes while she went to the salon every week. I never questioned it. I thought this was just how life was. I didn't know that the struggle was a play. I didn't know that I was the only one not in on the joke. I was starving for the truth, and she was feeding me lies. And the biggest lie of all was about to unravel. The truth didn't come out all at once. It started with something small. A piece of paper. It was 3 months before the dinner. It was my 24th birthday. I usually didn't get much for my birthday. My mother would usually get me a small cake from the grocery store and a card that said something generic. She would say, "I wish I could do more, but money is tight." I was used to it. I didn't expect anything. But that day I went to the mailbox. Usually my mother got the mail. She was obsessive about it. She always checked it before I got home from work. But she was sick that day. She was upstairs in bed with a migraine. So I opened the mailbox. There was a pile of bills, and in the middle of the pile there was a thick, cream-colored envelope. It looked expensive. The handwriting on the front was elegant and shaky. To Aurora, I recognized the handwriting. It was my grandfather's. I stood on the porch and stared at it. My mother had always told me Grandpa didn't care about birthdays. She said he was too busy counting his money to think about me. I opened the envelope. Inside was a card. It had a picture of a sailboat on the front. I opened the card. A check fell out. I picked it up. It was for $100. That wasn't a lot of money for a man as rich as him, but it was more than he had ever given me. Or so I thought. I read the message inside the card. "Dear Aurora, happy 24th birthday. I hope you are doing well. I am very proud of the woman you have become. You are so responsible. I know it isn't easy managing everything, but I am glad to see you are being so smart with the fund. You haven't touched the principal amount in years. That shows great maturity. Love, Grandpa." I read the sentence again. "I am glad to see you are being so smart with the fund." I frowned. I stood there on the porch, the wind blowing my hair, and read it a third time. The fund. What fund? My stomach did a little flip. Maybe he was confused. Grandpa was getting older. Maybe he thought I had a savings account. But the word principal stuck in my head. That was a specific word. It meant an investment. It meant a trust fund. I went inside the house. I walked quietly so I wouldn't wake my mother. I went to the kitchen and sat down. I looked at the check. I looked at the card. You haven't touched the principal amount in years. Something felt wrong. A cold feeling started in the back of my neck. I pulled out my phone. I looked up the name of the bank on the check Grandpa sent. It was a big national bank. One we didn't use. My mother and I used a small local credit union. I called the number on the back of the check. "Thank you for calling First National," a robotic voice said. I pressed 0. I wanted to talk to a person. A woman answered. "How can I help you?" My voice was shaking. "Hi, my name is Aurora Coleman. I think I might have an account there, a trust fund. My grandfather sent me a note about it, but I don't have the details." There was a pause, the sound of typing. "One moment, Miss Coleman. Let me verify your identity." She asked for my social security number. I gave it to her. "Yes," she said cheerfully. "I see the account right here, the Aurora Coleman Trust." My heart stopped. "It exists?" I asked. "Yes, ma'am. It's been active since you were 18. 6 years. Can you tell me?" I swallowed hard. "Can you tell me how much is in it?" "I can't give balances over the phone without a security code," she said. "But I can see that statements are being emailed monthly. Have you not been receiving them?" "No," I said. "I haven't." "That's strange," she said. They are going to the email address on file. It says, .coleman76@gmail.com. I almost dropped the phone. That wasn't my email. That was my mother's email. Are you sure? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Yes, ma'am, that's the primary contact, and the secondary contact is a phone number ending in 4490. That was my mother's cell phone number. I hung up the phone. I felt sick. I felt like the floor was tilting under my feet. I walked into the living room. The family computer was there. It was an old laptop we shared. My mother used it mostly for her job searches and online shopping. I sat down. I opened the browser. I went to the bank's website. I typed in my username, or what I thought might be a username. I tried my name, nothing. Then I clicked on the login box. The computer was set to remember me. A username popped up automatically. Mother Bear 76. My hand trembled as I moved the mouse. I didn't know the password, but the browser had saved that too. Little black dots filled the field. I didn't click login. Not yet. I was too scared. If I clicked that button, I would know. There would be no going back. If I clicked that button, the story of my life, the story of the poor, struggling single mom and her ungrateful daughter would be over. I stared at the screen for a long time. I thought about the coat with the safety pin. I thought about the ramen noodles. I thought about the holes in my shoes. I thought about her telling me, life isn't fair. I pressed enter. The screen loaded. Welcome, Aurora. The dashboard appeared. I saw the numbers. At first, my brain couldn't process them. It was too many zeros. Total assets, $12,000. That didn't seem right. Grandpa was wealthy. He wouldn't set up a trust fund with just $12,000. He had mentioned a principal amount. I clicked on transaction history. The list filled the screen. Red numbers. Withdrawal after withdrawal. I scrolled back. I went back 1 month. $2,500. Withdrawal cash $400. Nordstrom $1,200. Delta Airlines. I stared at the airline charge. My mother had gone to visit her sister in Florida last month. She told me her sister paid for the ticket because we were so broke. She lied. I paid for it. I kept scrolling back. 6 months ago. $3,000, luxury spa resort. She told me she was going to a job interview in the city and staying with a friend. She came back with a tan. She said she got the tan from walking around the city looking for work. She lied. I paid for her vacation. I went back further. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, the numbers got bigger. $15,000 transferred to S. Coleman personal checking. $8,000 car payment. I remembered when she got her car. She told me she leased the cheapest model they had. She said the payments were killing her, so I had to work extra shifts at the diner to help buy groceries. She bought the car with my money, and I was working to feed us while she drove it. I went all the way back to the beginning, 6 years ago, the day I turned 18. There was a deposit. Deposit, $2 million, $2 million. I put my hand over my mouth to stop myself from screaming. My grandfather had given me $2 million to start my life. That money was supposed to be for college, for a house, for my future. And now, I looked at the balance again, $12,000. She had spent almost all of it. Over 6 years, she had blown through nearly $2 million. I felt a wave of nausea. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. I sat on the cold tile floor, shaking. It wasn't just the money. It was the cruelty. She watched me struggle. She watched me cry over bills. She watched me skip meals. She sat across the table from me, eating food I paid for with my minimum wage job, while she had millions of my dollars in her pocket. She let me believe I was a burden. She let me believe I was dragging her down. I remembered her words, "I'm scraping pennies together." She wasn't scraping pennies. She was stealing millions. I stood up. I washed my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked pale, ghostly, but my eyes were different. They weren't sad anymore. They were angry. I went back to the computer. I needed proof. I needed more than just a look at the screen. I found the section for documents. I found a PDF titled Authorization for Withdrawal. I opened it. It was a form authorizing a transfer of $50,000. It was dated 3 years ago. At the bottom was a signature, Aurora Coleman. It was my name, but it wasn't my handwriting. The loops were too big. The A was too fancy. It was her handwriting. She had tried to disguise it, but I knew how she wrote. She had forged my signature. That was a crime, a felony. I didn't confront her. Not yet. If I screamed at her now, she would lie. She would make up a story. She would say it was a mistake, or that she was holding it for me, or that I was crazy. She would manipulate me like she always did. I needed to be smarter than her. I needed to be cold. I downloaded every statement, every transfer log, every forged document. I saved them to a USB drive I had in my backpack. Then I emailed them to a new, secret email address I made right then and there. I cleared the browser history. I wiped the cache. I made the computer look exactly like it did before. I heard footsteps upstairs. The floorboards creaked. She was waking up. I closed the laptop and sat on the couch. I picked up a book. I pretended to read. My mother walked down the stairs. She was wearing a silk robe, another thing she probably bought with my money. "Hi, honey," she said, rubbing her temples. "My head is killing me. Did you get the mail?" My heart hammered against my ribs. "Just bills," I said. My voice sounded flat. "Nothing important." "Okay," she said. She walked into the kitchen to make tea. I watched her back. I watched the woman who had raised me, the woman I loved, the woman who had stolen my life. I didn't say a word. I just started planning. I knew I couldn't do this alone. I needed the one person she was most afraid of. I needed Grandpa. But I had to be careful. If she found out I was talking to him, she would shut it down. She would find a way to block me. I waited until she went out for her yoga class. Probably another lie. I called Grandpa. I didn't have his number in my phone because Mom never gave it to me. I had to find it on an old holiday card she had thrown in the trash a year ago. I had saved it just in case. My hands were sweating as I dialed. "Hello," his voice was deep and gruff. "Grandpa," I said, "it's Aurora." There was a long silence. He wasn't used to me calling. "Aurora," he said. He sounded surprised. "Is everything all right?" "No," I said. "I need to talk to you, but you can't tell Mom." "Why not?" "Because it's about the trust fund," I said, "and the email you sent me." The line went quiet again. This time the silence felt heavy. "I see," he said finally. His tone changed. It wasn't confused anymore, it was sharp. "What do you know?" "I know she changed the email," I said. "I know she's the one getting the statements." "And Grandpa, the money is gone." I heard him take a sharp breath. "How much?" "Almost all of it." He didn't yell, he didn't explode. He got very, very quiet. That was scarier than yelling. "Meet me," he said, "tomorrow at my office." "Come alone." I skipped work the next day. I took a bus to the city. I walked into his office building. It was a huge glass tower. I felt small in my worn-out sneakers and my old coat. Grandpa was waiting for me. When he saw me, he didn't look at my clothes. He looked at my face. He looked at the dark circles under my eyes. I showed him the USB drive. We sat with his accountant and went through the files I had stolen. The accountant's face went pale. "This is extensive," the accountant said. "She's been siphoning it off systematically for 6 years. Forgery, wire fraud, identity theft." Grandpa sat back in his leather chair. He looked old suddenly. He looked tired. "I thought she was helping you," he whispered. "She told me you were bad with money. She told me you were reckless. She said she needed access to help you manage it." "She told me you hated us," I said. "She told me you wouldn't give us a dime." Grandpa closed his eyes. A single tear leaked out. He wiped it away quickly. "I never hated you, Aurora. I was trying to protect you. I thought giving the money to you directly would overwhelm you, so I trusted her." He looked at me. His eyes were hard like steel. "I am going to fix this," he said. "I don't want her to know yet," I said. "I want her to admit it. I want her to say it to my face." Grandpa nodded. A plan formed in his eyes. "Dinner," he said. "Sunday night, I'll invite both of you. I'll tell her it's a celebration." "A celebration for what?" I asked. "For the family," he said grimly. "She won't be able to resist. If she thinks everything is normal, she'll come. She's greedy. She'll think I'm giving her more money." The next few days were a blur. I had to act normal. I had to eat dinner with her. I had to listen to her complain about money. "The electric bill is so high this month," she sighed on Friday. "I don't know how we'll pay it." It took everything I had not to scream. "Use the $3,000 you spent on the spa." But I stayed quiet. Sunday came. We got dressed. "Wear something nice, Aurora," she said, looking me up and down with disapproval. "Don't embarrass me in front of your grandfather." I put on a simple black dress. It was old, but it was clean. We drove to Grandpa's house. It was a mansion on a hill. My mother was in a good mood. She was humming. She thought she was going to get a check. She thought she had one. We walked into the dining room. The table was set with crystal glasses and silverware. Grandpa was standing at the head of the table. He smiled when we walked in, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Welcome," he said. "Please sit." I sat on one side. My mother sat on the other. "Where is the staff?" my mother asked, looking around. "Usually the maid takes our coats." "I gave the staff the night off," Grandpa said. "I wanted this to be private," my mother smiled. "Oh, how nice. Just family." "Yes," Grandpa said, "just family." But I knew the truth. The kitchen door was slightly ajar. I could see a shadow moving behind it. It wasn't a chef. It was a man in a suit, and next to him, a man in a uniform. A lawyer and a detective. My mother poured herself a glass of wine. She took a sip, looking relaxed and happy. She had no idea that the walls were closing in. "So, Dad," she said sweetly. "What's the occasion?" Grandpa looked at her. Then he looked at me. He picked up his knife and fork. "Let's eat first," he said. "We have a lot to discuss." I picked up my fork. My hand was shaking, but I forced myself to be steady. The trap was set. And she was sitting right in the middle of it. The room was so quiet I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Tick, tock, tick, tock. It sounded like a countdown. My mother was halfway through her salad. She was eating quickly, nervously, though she tried to look calm. She kept glancing at Grandpa, waiting for him to speak. She was waiting for the good news. She was waiting for a check. Grandpa cleared his throat. He reached down beside his chair and picked up his leather briefcase. He set it on the table. My mother's eyes lit up. She smiled. She thought the money was in there. "Is that for us, Dad?" she asked. Her voice was high and eager. "In a way," Grandpa said. He opened the briefcase. But he didn't pull out a checkbook. He pulled out a laptop. It was a sleek silver computer. He opened it and turned the screen so it faced all of us. My mother frowned. "What's this? Are you showing us a video?" "I'm showing you a history," Grandpa said. His voice was flat. "A history of the Aurora Coleman Trust." My mother dropped her fork. It clattered onto her plate. A piece of lettuce fell onto the white tablecloth. "The trust," she said. She tried to laugh, but it came out as a choke. "Dad, why are we talking about that? That's boring financial stuff. Aurora doesn't understand that kind of thing." She looked at me. Her eyes were warning me. "Stay quiet," they said. "Don't say a word." "Actually," Grandpa said, cutting her off, "I think Aurora understands it perfectly. We had a long talk yesterday." My mother froze. She slowly turned her head to look at me. Her face went pale. The color drained out of her cheeks like water down a drain. You talked," she whispered. "We did," I said. My voice was steady. I was surprised by how calm I sounded. Inside, I was shaking, but outside, I was like a stone. "We looked at the bank statements, Mom." "Those statements are complicated," she stammered. She looked back at Grandpa. "She's confused, Dad. You know how she is. She gets numbers mixed up." Grandpa didn't answer. He just tapped a key on the laptop. A document filled the screen. It was projected large and clear. Security log, email change request date. June 12, 2018, old email. aurora.coleman@email.com, new email. s.colman76@gmail.com, IP address. Matched to residential home. "This is the day Aurora turned 18, Grandpa said. He read the words off the screen slowly. "The day she legally gained control of the money." And on that exact day, at 8 a.m., the email address for all notifications was changed. "It was changed to yours, Sarah." My mother shook her head. That must be a glitch, a computer error. I was just helping her set it up." She asked me to. "No, I didn't," I said. "You did," she snapped at me. Her voice got louder. "You said you didn't want the stress. You said, 'Mom, you handle it.' Don't you remember?" "I never knew the money existed," I said. "You told me we were broke. You told me I couldn't go to the college I wanted because we couldn't afford it." "We couldn't," she yelled. "The trust isn't liquid cash, it's investments." Grandpa tapped the key again. The screen changed. Transaction log withdrawal. $45,000 method. Wire transfer destination. Mercedes-Benz dealership. "Is a car an investment?" Grandpa asked. "Because I see here that a brand new E-Class was purchased 3 years ago. Aurora takes the bus. She walks to work in the rain, so who is driving the Mercedes?" My mother's mouth opened and closed. She looked like a fish out of water. I needed reliable transportation," she said, "to get to work. To support her." "You don't have a job, Sarah," Grandpa said. "You haven't had a job in 10 years. That hit her like a slap. She flinched. "I consult," she screamed. "I do freelance work." "No," Grandpa said. "You live off your daughter's stolen money." He tapped the key again, and again, and again. $6,000 Ritz-Carlton Hotel, $2,500 Saks Fifth Avenue, $12,000 cash withdrawal, $800 fine dining. The list went on and on. It was a scroll of greed. I sat there and watched the numbers go by. I remembered where I was during those dates. When she spent $6,000 at the Ritz-Carlton, I was sick with the flu. I didn't go to the doctor because she said the copay was too expensive. I lay in bed for 3 days, shivering, drinking tap water. She was ordering room service. When she spent $2,500 at Saks, I was taping my work shoes together with duct tape because the sole had fallen off. Every line on that screen was a betrayal. Every dollar was a lie. "Stop it," my mother screamed. She stood up. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Turn it off, this is private. You can't do this to me." She reached across the table. She tried to grab the laptop. She wanted to smash it. She wanted to destroy the evidence, but she wasn't fast enough. The kitchen door swung open all the way. A man in a sharp gray suit walked in. He was holding a thick folder of papers. "Sit down, Miss Coleman," the man said. His voice was deep and authoritative. My mother stopped. She looked at the man. "Who are you?" "My name is Mr. Henderson," he said. "I am your father's attorney, and I am currently representing Aurora Coleman." He walked to the table and placed the folder in front of her. "These are copies of the forged documents," he said. "Renewal forms, withdrawal slips, tax documents, all signed with Aurora Coleman. But we have already had a handwriting expert analyze them. They are a 100% match to your handwriting." My mother slumped back into her chair. She looked small. She looked trapped. "It's a misunderstanding," she whispered. "I was going to pay it back. It was a loan. Just a family loan." "A loan requires permission," Mr. Henderson said. "This is theft." "Dad," she pleaded, looking at Grandpa. Tears started to stream down her face. They weren't real tears. I knew her real tears. These were crocodile tears. "Dad, please, I'm your daughter. Are you really going to let a stranger talk to me like this? Over money? It's just money." "It's not just money," Grandpa said. His voice broke. "It's Aurora's life. You stole her future. You let her live in poverty while you lived like a queen. You watched her suffer." "I loved her," my mother sobbed. "I did it for us. I wanted us to have a good life." "No," I said. Everyone looked at me. "You wanted you to have a good life," I said. "I was just the bank account." My mother's face twisted. The sadness vanished. It was replaced by pure, ugly rage. She looked at me with hatred. "You ungrateful little brat," she hissed. "After everything I sacrificed, I gave birth to you. I raised you alone. You owe me that money. You owe me everything." There it was, the truth. She didn't think she stole it. She thought she deserved it. "She doesn't owe you a penny," Mr. Henderson said. He looked toward the hallway. He nodded. "And neither does the state." Heavy footsteps echoed on the hardwood floor. My mother turned around. A police officer and a detective in plain clothes walked into the dining room. The detective was holding a pair of handcuffs. They glinted under the chandelier light. The trap had officially sprung. The air in the room changed instantly. It went from heavy to electric. My mother saw the police and she screamed. It wasn't a word, it was just a high-pitched noise of terror. "No," she yelled. "No, no, no, you can't be here. Get out of my father's house." She backed away until she hit the wall. She looked wild. Her hair was messy, her eyes were wide. She looked like an animal in a cage. "Sarah Coleman," the detective said calmly. He walked toward her slowly. "I have a warrant for your arrest." "For what?" she screeched. "I didn't do anything. I'm a mother. I'm a good mother." "You are being charged with grand larceny," the detective said. He was reading from a small notebook. "Identity theft, forgery in the first degree, and wire fraud." "Lies," she shouted. She pointed a shaking finger at me. "She's lying. My daughter is a liar. She's mentally unstable. She gave me that money. Tell them, Aurora. Tell them you gave it to me." She lunged toward me. She grabbed my arm. Her fingernails dug into my skin. It hurt. "Tell them," she screamed in my face. Her breath smelled like wine and fear. "Tell them I took care of you. Tell them to leave." I looked at her hands on my arm. For my whole life, those hands had controlled me. They had pushed me. They had held me back. They had taken everything from me, but they didn't feel strong anymore. They felt desperate. I pulled my arm away. I stood up. I was taller than her in my heels. I looked down at her. "I didn't give you anything," I said clearly. "You stole it. You stole my trust fund. You stole my childhood. And you stole my trust." "Aurora, please," she begged. Her tone switched instantly from anger to pathetic begging. She grabbed my hand again. "Baby, please, don't let them take Mommy. Jail? I can't go to jail. I'm not a criminal. I'm your mom. Remember when you were little? Remember how we used to cuddle? Please, Aurora, just tell them it was a mistake. We can fix this. I'll pay it back, I promise." It was the hardest moment of my life. Part of me, the little girl who just wanted her mom to love her, wanted to save her. I wanted to say, okay, stop, let her go. But then I remembered the coat with the safety pin. I remembered the hunger pains in my stomach. I remembered her laughing when I asked for help. You can't pay it back, I said. The money is gone, and even if you could, you can't buy back the last 10 years. I looked at the detective. Do it, I said. The detective stepped forward. He took my mother's arms and pulled them behind her back. Click, click. The sound of the handcuffs locking was the loudest sound I had ever heard. You have the right to remain silent, the detective began. My mother lost it. She started thrashing. She kicked the table leg. The water glasses wobbled. Dad, she screamed at Grandpa. Help me, don't let them take me, I'm your little girl. Grandpa was sitting in his chair. He had turned his chair away so he didn't have to watch. His shoulders were shaking, he was crying. You stopped being my little girl a long time ago, Grandpa said softly, when you decided to victimize my granddaughter. I hate you, she screamed. I hate all of you, you're all selfish. I did everything, I deserved that money, it was mine. The detective and the officer grabbed her by the elbows. They marched her toward the door. She dug her heels into the expensive rug. She dragged her feet. She was making a scene, just like a toddler having a tantrum. But this wasn't a tantrum. This was the end of her life as she knew it. Aurora, she howled as they dragged her through the hallway. Aurora, don't do this, I'm your mother. You're killing me, you're killing your own mother. Her voice echoed off the walls. It was raw and shrill. I stood still. I didn't follow them to the door. I didn't want to see her get into the police car. I just listened. I heard the front door open. I heard the cool night air rush in. I heard the door slam shut. And then silence. The screaming stopped. The house was quiet again. My mother was gone. I looked down at my arm where she had grabbed me. There were 4 red crescent moon shapes where her nails had dug in. They were stinging. I touched them gently. They would bruise, but they would heal. Unlike the damage she had done to my heart. That would take a lot longer. But the fear was gone. For the first time in 24 years, I wasn't afraid of what she would say or do. She couldn't hurt me anymore. She couldn't lie to me anymore. She was in the back of a police car, and I was standing in a mansion. The balance of power had finally shifted. For a long time, nobody moved. Grandpa was still turned away. Mr. Henderson, the lawyer, was gathering the papers back into the folder. He did it quietly, respecting the heavy mood in the room. I sat back down. My legs felt weak. The adrenaline was leaving my body, and now I just felt exhausted. I felt like I had run a marathon. Is she gone? Grandpa asked. His voice was cracked and old. She's gone, sir, Mr. Henderson said. Grandpa turned his chair back around. He looked 10 years older than he had at the start of dinner. His face was gray. His eyes were red. He looked at me. I am so sorry, Aurora, he said. It's not your fault, Grandpa, I said. It is, he said firmly. I should have checked. I should have visited. I let her keep you away from me. I believed her lies because it was easier than fighting her. I abandoned you to her. He reached across the table and took my hand. His hand was warm and rough. I promise you, he said. Never again. You will never be alone again, and you will never be poor again. He nodded to Mr. Henderson. The lawyer pulled out a new stack of documents. These weren't evidence. These were legal contracts. Aurora, Mr. Henderson said, with your mother's arrest and the proof of fraud, we have triggered a clause in the original trust agreement. She is immediately removed as trustee. She has no access, no rights, and no claim to any family assets. He slid a heavy document toward me. This transfers full, unsupervised control of the remaining assets to you. It also transfers the deed to this house eventually, but for now, your grandfather wants to make a direct transfer. A direct transfer? I asked. The money she stole, Grandpa said. I can't get it back from her. She spent it. It's gone. He took a deep breath. But I am replacing it, every penny plus interest. He slid a check across the table. I looked at it. Pay to the order of Aurora Coleman amount. $2,500,000. I stared at the number. $2.5 million. It didn't feel real. It looked like a piece of paper with ink on it. You don't have to do that, I said. That's your money. It's your birthright, he said. And it's my penance. Take it, please. I picked up the pen. My hand was shaking again, but not from fear this time. It was from shock. I signed my name, Aurora Coleman. It was my real signature. Not a forgery, not a fake, it was me. Mr. Henderson stamped the document. Thump. It is done, he said. You are now the sole owner of the Coleman Trust. You have full access to your accounts. You have full legal protection. I sat back. I thought about the diner. I thought about the grease on my apron. I thought about the manager yelling at me for being 2 minutes late. I didn't have to go back there. I didn't have to wash another dish. I didn't have to tape my shoes. I could buy a coat that fit. I could buy a house. I could go to college. I could study art or history or whatever I wanted. I looked around the room. The luxury that had always felt forbidden to me, the crystal, the wood, the space, it wasn't forbidden anymore. I belonged here. But it wasn't the money that made me feel different. It was the truth. My mother had spent my whole life making me feel small so she could feel big. She had made me feel worthless so she could feel rich. But the truth was out now. The play was over. The lights were on. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the survivor. Grandpa stood up. "Let's get out of this room," he said. "I can't eat in here tonight. Let's go to the kitchen. Let's have some ice cream. Do you still like strawberry ice cream?" I smiled. A real smile. I hadn't had strawberry ice cream since I was 5 years old, before my mother stopped buying unnecessary treats. "I love strawberry ice cream," I said. We walked out of the dining room together. We left the papers on the table. We left the empty chair where my mother had sat. We walked into the bright, warm kitchen. Grandpa got 2 bowls. I got the spoons. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a guest in my own family. I felt like I was home. But I knew the story wasn't completely over. My mother was in a cell, but she wouldn't stay quiet forever. And I had to decide how I was going to move forward. Was I going to be bitter? Was I going to be angry? Or was I going to be happy? As I ate that ice cream, cold and sweet, I realized that being happy was the best revenge of all. But first, I had one last thing to do. I had to tell the world. I had to make sure everyone knew that the poor single mother act was a lie. I had to reclaim my name. After the police cars drove away and the ice cream was finished, the adrenaline finally left my body. I felt heavy. I felt like I could sleep for a week. Grandpa wanted me to stay at his house. He had a dozen empty bedrooms. He had staff who would make up a bed with silk sheets. He told me I never had to go back to that dark, cramped townhouse again. But I told him I had to go back, just for one night. "Why?" he asked, looking worried. "There's nothing there for you, Aurora. It's a bad place." "I need to pack," I said, "and I need to say goodbye to it. If I don't go back and walk out on my own 2 feet, I'll always feel like I'm running away. I want to leave on my terms." Grandpa understood. He had his driver take me home. The car ride was smooth and quiet. I looked out the window at the city passing by. Usually I took the bus. I was used to the noise, the smell of exhaust, the people shouting. But in the back of this car, it was silent. It was peaceful. We pulled up to the townhouse. It looked different now. Before, it looked like my whole world. It looked like a fortress where my mother made the rules and I followed them. Now, it just looked like a small, sad house with peeling paint and a dead garden. It looked like a lie. I unlocked the front door. The house was dark. My mother had left the lights off to save money, my money. I walked inside and flipped the switch. The light buzzed. I stood in the hallway. It was so quiet. Usually, the TV would be blaring. Or my mother would be on the phone, laughing that fake laugh she used with her friends. Or she would be yelling at me to clean something. Tonight, there was nothing, just the hum of the refrigerator. I walked into the kitchen. I saw the table where we ate dinner every night. I saw her chair. I saw my chair. I walked over to the fridge and opened it. It was full of cheap food. Generic soda, bologna, frozen dinners. Then I opened the cabinet where she hid her special snacks. Expensive chocolates, imported wine, the things she told me we couldn't afford. I took a bottle of wine. I poured it down the sink. The red liquid swirled down the drain. It looked like blood. I went upstairs. I walked past my mother's room. The door was open. I went inside. Her room smelled like her perfume. It was overpowering. I looked at her closet. I slid the door open. It was packed. Rows and rows of designer dresses, coats, shoes in boxes, handbags that cost more than I made in a year. I touched a silk blouse. It was soft. I thought about how many shifts at the diner I worked to pay for this blouse. I thought about how many times I walked home in the rain so she could buy these shoes. I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt disgusted. It was just stuff. It was a pile of expensive junk bought with stolen trust. I left her room and went to mine. My room was small. A single bed, a cheap dresser, a desk with a wobbly leg. I pulled my old duffel bag out from under the bed. I started to pack. But then I stopped. I looked at my clothes. T-shirts with holes, jeans that were faded and thin, the sweater I had worn since high school. Why was I packing this? These were the clothes of a victim. These were the clothes of the girl who believed she was worthless. I didn't need them. I put the t-shirt back. I put the jeans back. I only packed the things that mattered. A photo of my dad, who died when I was a baby. My sketchbook, my favorite book, my documents, that was it. Everything else, the poverty, the struggle, the hand-me-downs, I was leaving it behind. I zipped up the bag. It was light. It felt good. I lay down on my bed for the last time. I thought I would cry. I thought I would miss my mom. But I didn't. I stared at the ceiling and listened to the silence. For the first time, the silence wasn't lonely. It was freedom. Nobody was going to barge in and yell at me. Nobody was going to ask me for money. Nobody was going to lie to me. I slept better that night than I had in 24 years. The next morning, the sun woke me up. It was bright. I showered. I put on my best outfit, the black dress from the dinner. It was the only nice thing I owned. I grabbed my bag. I walked down the stairs. I wrote a note and left it on the kitchen table. It wasn't for my mother. It was for the landlord. Keys are on the counter. The rent is paid. I'm gone. I walked out the front door. I locked it. I dropped the key through the mail slot. Clink. The sound of the key hitting the floor was the final period at the end of a long, terrible sentence. I turned around. Grandpa's car was waiting for me at the curb. The driver opened the door. "Where to, Miss Coleman?" he asked. I looked back at the house one last time, then I looked forward. "To the bank," I said, and then, "Anywhere I want." I got in the car. As we drove away, I didn't look back. I wasn't the poor kid anymore. I wasn't the daughter of a thief. I was Aurora Coleman, and my life was just beginning. It has been 6 months since that dinner. A lot has changed. I don't live in that townhouse anymore. I live in a condo downtown. It has big windows that let in the sunlight. It has a kitchen with brand new appliances. And the best part? The fridge is full of food that I like. Strawberry ice cream, fresh fruit, good cheese. I don't work at the diner anymore. I quit the day after the arrest. My boss told me I was making a mistake. He said I'd never find another job that tolerated me. I just smiled and walked out. I didn't tell him I was a millionaire. I didn't tell him I owned the building he was renting. That was a surprise. I found out later. Grandpa's company owns the strip mall. I decided not to renew the diner's lease. Life isn't fair, right? My mother is currently in a minimum security prison. Her lawyer tried to get her a plea deal, but the evidence was too strong. The judge didn't like that she stole from her own child. She writes me letters. At first, I read them. They were full of guilt trips. "How can you let your mother rot in here? I did everything for you. You're ungrateful." Then the tone changed. She started begging. "I need money for the commissary. I need a better lawyer. Please, Aurora." I don't read them anymore. When a letter comes with the prison stamp on it, I don't even open it. I put it directly into the shredder. ZZZZT. It's a satisfying sound. Some people tell me I'm being cold. They say, "But she's your mother. You only get one mother." They don't understand. DNA doesn't make you a family. Love makes you a family. Trust makes you a family. My mother broke that trust every single day for 10 years. She looked me in the eye and watched me suffer while she lived in luxury. That isn't love. That is predation. I have spent the last 6 months fixing the damage she did. I fixed my teeth. I got contacts. I bought clothes that keep me warm. But I'm also fixing the inside. I'm going to therapy. I'm learning that it's okay to spend money on myself. I'm learning that I deserve to be happy. Grandpa and I have dinner every Sunday. Real dinners. We talk about books and politics and art. We don't talk about money. We don't need to. He is trying to make up for lost time. He still feels guilty, but I told him to stop. He saved me. That's what matters. I wanted to share this story with you because I know I am not the only one. I know there are people out there right now who feel like they are crazy. People who have family members who lie and manipulate and steal. My mother always used to tell me, life isn't fair. She used it to shut me up. She used it to make me accept her abuse. But now I realize she was right. Life isn't fair. It wasn't fair that she did that to me. It wasn't fair that I lost my childhood. But here is the thing about life not being fair. It works both ways. It wasn't fair to her that her quiet, obedient daughter suddenly woke up. It wasn't fair to her that the trap she set for me snapped back on her own hand. It wasn't fair that she ended up with nothing, and I ended up with everything. My mother taught me that life is a game. She just didn't realize that I was learning the rules. So if you are reading this and you feel like something is wrong in your family, listen to that feeling. If you feel like you are being used, check the facts. If you feel like you are being lied to, find the truth. Don't stay quiet to keep the peace. I stayed quiet for years and it almost cost me my future. Silence is what they want. Silence is how they survive. But truth is the best revenge. Narrator looks directly at the camera. My name is Aurora. I was a victim. Now, I'm the one writing the checks. If you have ever had a family member who valued money more than they valued you, I want you to leave a comment below. Share your story. Let's bring the truth into the light. And make sure you subscribe because my mother gets out on parole in 5 years. And I have a feeling the story isn't completely over yet. But next time, I'll be ready.